That's right. Today we are talking about plot point six, where the immediate consequences. All right. Plot point six, the immediate consequences of the action taken by the protagonist. In plot point five, we're going to talk about how to create realistic consequences in your story and drive your story forward when you're dealing with the 27 plot point outline. Now, the plot point six focuses on immediate consequences of the action taken by the protagonist. This is where cause meets effect. Your protagonist has made a decision in plot point five, taken a leap, and now must face the immediate reactions of the world around them. The consequences, whether positive, negative, or mixed, create an essential part of the storytelling, okay, by making it clear that choices have repercussions. This beat brings the narrative alive by introducing the first layer of reality that follows the protagonist's initial bold step into action. But, Thomas, what is plot point six? To clarify, plot point six, the immediate consequences of the action taken by the protagonist, is all about what happens immediately after your protagonist decides to take action in plot point five. It's a moment where cause meets effect in the sense that the protagonist has made a choice and now the narrative has to react to that choice. The plot point is where the story pushes back on the protagonist, reminding them and the reader that decisions have weight. Here, the immediate consequence unfolds, often adding new challenges or unexpected twists. This helps create a sense of realism, urgency, very important. Momentum increases the stakes and ensures that the every action leads to a reaction. Okay, so let's talk about some of these things. Cause and effect. In storytelling, every action has a reaction, and this plot point is where that principle truly shines. Okay. Your protagonist made a choice in plot point five, perhaps stepping up, facing a challenge, or making a bold move. Now, what happens as a direct result of them taking that action? The consequences can be positive, negative, and again, a mixture of both. But the key is to keep them impactful. These consequences should introduce new complications that drive the story forward and add depth to your character's journey. And it is in plot point six where they experience the first direct effect on the protagonist's decision. It illustrates the idea that every action comes with consequences, and your protagonist must now face the impact of what they did. This moment adds truth to the cause and effect. You can't just have your characters making choices and nothing happens to them. It should also add a sense of complication. However, that complication doesn't have to be that, they lost a leg. It could just be emotional. It can be external. It could just be something that moves them in another direction where they have to solve the problem. So, the consequences should, at minimum, add a level of complication to the protagonist's journey. Their decisions to take action should make their world more challenging, not less. This or these immediate consequences may open up new questions, introduce new threats, or create unexpected obstacles that keep the protagonist from getting too comfortable. The aim is to make sure the stakes feel more significant now that they've acted, which means those stakes, all right, should be raised and their action should not just resolve things easily, but instead complicate matters, pushing the story into new territory. These new challenges add tensions and make the audience feel that your protagonist is in an active, changing situation. The protagonist might have taken a step in the right direction, but that doesn't mean things are going to get easier. They often get harder first or more complicated. And complicated could be emotional. It could be that they are learning more information, and that information could be overwhelming, which brings us to emotional and physical consequences. The consequences should affect the protagonist emotionally as well as physically or practically. This is an opportunity to explore how the protagonist feels about what's happening. Are they screwed, overwhelmed, or even motivated by the response to their actions? How they process the immediate effects is a key part of their growth. Use this time to show how your character processes setbacks, surprises, or even small victories. It helps deepen your character by revealing their vulnerabilities, fears, or determination in facing the unexpected obstacles. And finally, but not last, okay, we got a couple more things we're going to talk about here. Okay, we have. Let me get that. New obstacles or opportunities. Consider how the immediate consequence might lead to either a new obstacle or even an opportunity. For example, if your protagonist's action in plot point 5 was to confront an enemy, plot point 6 could show how this confrontation either backfires, leading to a new level of conflict, or perhaps reveals something the protagonist didn't know before, giving them a new direction. All right. 3 quick step tips. It's important to stay true to your character. Ensure that the consequences reflect not only what happened, but also who your protagonist is, how they respond to it. How they respond should reveal something about their character arc. Perhaps they react with resilience, fear, frustration, or even denial. Whatever the case is, you want that to be a good starting point for where they're going to go, right? So, or maybe it's an elevation to the starting point in the ordinary world. All right. Create complications, not solutions. The consequences should make the protagonist's journey more challenging, not resolve everything neatly. But again, it could still be positive or a mixed of. A mix doesn't mean a positive means like they got the job. Oh, they got the job. They went in the office. They said, "Hey, I need this job," and they were like, "All right, you got it." But there are more challenges now. They have to show that they can do the job, and that's what the immediate. You want it, you got the job, you got the promotion. So the next beat, the next scene, or the next plot point is literally them trying to deal with the new job and realizing maybe this is more than they thought they can do. You also want to be specific, avoid vague reactions. The more specific the consequences and the more sharply it affects your protagonist, the more memorable and engaging the story would be. I do want to talk about Star Wars real quick. Star Wars. Okay. So Star Wars, if we look at Star Wars real quick, all right? We're on plot point 6, okay? But if we look at the beat, plot point 1, the ordinary world, is Darth Vader and the princess, All right. Luke on the desert planet. We meet the droids, right? There's a ship. There's a message that was given to R2D2. The droids leave and they get to the desert planet. We see Luke doing the farm stuff with his uncle. Everything is just straightforward. We learn what the ordinary world is. Plot point 2, the inciting incident, is Luke buys the droids. Without him buying the droids, the story would never happen. Why? Because, well, the reaction to the inciting incident, or in this case, they are reacting to the inciting incident, is that ultimately that Princess Leia's message pops up when Luke is trying to clean up the droids, and it goes, "Help me, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope." And he's like, "What is this?" And C-3PO is like, "I don't know. I never met you. Just was on the ship with her." Anyway, so R2D2 is like, I can't tell you. It's Obi-Wan's message. I can't tell you. So this leads to the protagonist reacts and reflects to the long-term impact. And this is where Luke goes and talks to his uncle and aunt at the table. And he's like, "Hey, there was a message on the droid. Do you think Obi-Wan Kenobi is old Ben?" And then we also learn that Luke also wants to join the academy, and his uncle says he can stay on for one more harvest season, and then he could go to the academy. So this is the reflection and the reaction to the inciting incident. Basically, like, "Hey, there's a message on the droids. I should go bring it over to Obi-Wan." And then the uncle is like, "No, bring it down and have the memory erased on the droids, and that'll be the end of it," right? Because that's the emotional reaction. Anyway, believe it or not, R2D2 and C-3PO are technically the POV of the story in the beginning. R2D2 decides to head off. He leaves. Remember, Luke comes in and C3PO is like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Please don't deactivate me. He left." So Luke is like, "Well, it's too late at night, but we'll have to go and search for him tomorrow." So even Luke is like, "I'm going to go search for him." So he decides to go search for him, and he does. And that leads to plot point 6, the immediate consequence of the action taken by the protagonist. So Luke did go to search for R2D2. And what happens? The Tusken Raiders, the Sand People attack Luke. And that's where we end with plot point 6. So in a movie, it might come off as just a quick scene, but really it's not a quick scene. The Tusken Raiders are set up. Then they're up on the things. Luke is like going through the canyon, and then they get attacked, and then there's a moment, right? All that happens. Then Luke is knocked out, and the Tusken Raiders are like going through all their stuff, and Luke is just laying on the ground like that, right? So that's plot point 7, but we'll go over that tomorrow, next time. All right. There you go. Final thoughts. Plot point 6 is indeed about the immediate aftermath of the protagonist's decision to take action. Remember, in a novel, this could be a part of a chapter that has other plot points in it. It could be its own chapter. It could be split up amongst many chapters. You could always look at chapters as opportunities to be the beginning, middle, and end of a plot beat. All right. You have options. Okay. But the plot beat itself should be about dealing with the immediate reaction to the action. So if I'm like, I need to go pick up soda, and I leave the house to go get the soda, what happens? Is there no soda? Do I get into a car accident? Do I get the soda, but then I don't have the money? There has to be an immediate reaction to the choice. So I'm going to take action, and I take the action. Driving to the thing, to the store. What is the immediate reaction? Because I drove towards the store. So you got to think about that. However, ensure that your narrative stays dynamic, specifically the story aspect of your narrative. That choices have real repercussions, and that because that's what makes a narrative interesting. You can't just be like, I need soda. I'm going to go to the store. I get to the store. I buy the soda. I come home. I drink the soda. That's not interesting. All right. The immediate consequences forces the protagonist to adapt, grow, and stay engaged with the story's unfolding conflict. Actions need to feel significant and that their journey is filled with challenges that keep the stakes high. This plot point isn't just about what happens next. It's about showing that actions have immediate effects, and we get to watch how the protagonists and characters react to that immediate effect, and their choices on the way they deal with it develops them as and the story. So you want to work on challenging. Okay. You want the immediate consequences to both be challenging and rewarding because it's about making the protagonist's actions feel real. Think about how the world would realistically respond to your character's choices. Let these consequences surprise your protagonist, push them out of their comfort zone, and force them to think on their feet. For you, I would recommend practicing writing different types of consequences, some positive, some negative, and watch how they affect your story. Remember, you're just outlining, so you could change things up, you could rework things. This is why I don't write out full chapters to figure out what the story is. I just write out lines and ideas. I write out a passage at most that explains what happens in this plot point. Because then I could be like, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? And then I could just write another sentence or paragraph that explains what is the reaction to that thing, right? But once you understand how to connect and use conscious consequences effectively, you'll be able to create a story that feels alive, where every choice of the character matters and every action propels the plot forward. And this comes down to thinking outside the box. Don't be afraid to let the consequences surprise even you. Push your protagonists, challenge them, place them in situations where they have to make decisions, where they have to have agency, and where unexpected twists may occur. This is your chance to practice how characters react under pressure and to really explore their vulnerabilities and resilience. Remember, it is only outlining. So it's a sentence, It's a broad sentence, a general sentence, or a general paragraph that explains what's going to happen in this plot point. You could even do character plot points, right? So you've seen me do that on the live videos, where basically you just write a sentence or a paragraph that explains what happens for that character in that plot point. And then you have another one and another one. You might have 4 or 5 that explain all the characters within that plot point. The more you explore and experiment with this plot point, the better you'll understand how to craft authentic, layered character responses. So, with that said, take the time to write different versions. By doing so, you'll not only understand the mechanics of cause and effect, but you'll also build the confidence inside yourself to break the rules when necessary and make this moment all yours. Practice is key. Once you truly grasp the value of this plot point, you'll have the freedom to bend it, twist it, and make it uniquely yours. So, next video will obviously be plot point 7. The protagonist's life changes as a result of the action they took, and this creates pressure. Question: how have these expanded plot point videos been helping you? Let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss out. And remember, thumbs up help. As always, you want to keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time. Bye.